Hello and welcome back to OCD Coded. My name is Erin Brown. I have OCD and I'm a therapist, and I hope to help you learn to turn your OCD into a superpower and recognize how it can help you. And so I was thinking about the video over this week and thinking about what to do, and I thought about a holiday survival guide for OCD, and I'm trying again to just do all this without too much pre-planning and no editing because if I do all that, it gets in my perfectionism and I never release anything. So I'm just kind of going as we go. But some of the first things I was thinking about for the holiday survival guide with OCD was some of the things to say, like, to be able to talk about it. And some of my first thoughts were like, yes, Aunt Hilda, I do need to flip the light switch 3 times. It makes me feel better. If it doesn't hurt you, can you just let me do it? And that made me giggle. Um, and then, or other ones about, you know, like just knowing that you need to take a break. And I think that that's a big one. And like how I talked about in a previous video about overstimulation and just OCD hates the unknown. And, in the holiday season, there's tons of unknown. And there's also, it's just it feels like the rules that we don't understand. When I say we, I mean like OCD, in that sense of, it just feels like all these traditions are all these like social things that everyone else seems to know or understand or do, and that I tend to um, always do differently, and how to embrace that. But then also just recognizing that I don't have to be perfect, reminding myself that, OCD tends to obsess about other people's perceptions of us. And so I tried very hard to remember that whole spotlight anxiety thing. Like I am thinking about myself way more than these people are thinking about me. They probably didn't notice that I, just spilled food on my shirt or whatever it would be. And and so and how to like really, I'd seen that it was some meme too that was like post hangout affirmations. Like there are at least 5 people in the world who are more terrible than you are. Nobody saw it when you dropped that thing on your shirt. Your friends do not hate you. And I thought those were some good, post holiday, um, you know, holiday just in general, whether it's holiday party, holiday gathering, post holiday, whatever, affirmations is, I'm sure it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. It won't be as bad as I think it'll be. Um, and how to kind of give some of those ways to ease the OCD. And I noticed that with so much of it is like me trying to think I can get rid of it or that it means something's wrong with me is a big part of what makes it stick around longer or, come out harder. And if I can accept that I have OCD, if I can forgive myself for having OCD is something I have to practice a lot, then I can get so much further with it. Like, I just accept that I have OCD. And this is the essence of shadow work is learning to love or at least accept the parts of me that I don't like. And that was some quote. I don't know. I don't think it was Carl Jung. Um, but it was something about the first step towards love is acceptance. Or like, we have to first accept something before we can love it. That like I have to accept myself as I am before I can love it. Um, or like on the journey to loving it and the same with others. Like I have to accept others as they are, and I have to accept the world as it is so that I can love it and all of those things that I am working on in my own practice. But for this and for the holidays, I think of, remembering, okay, like, okay, I have OCD. I'm gonna have to make a plan. Or I don't have to make a plan, but a plan will make me at least help me navigate some of the unknowns with it. Like, in this day and age, I love all the things that you can set a timer on your phone to go off and you can pretend it's a phone call so that you can, if you don't want to get out of whatever situation you're in, you can just say, oh, I'll silence it. This conversation's so important to me. And it really makes the other person feel, really valued. Or if you do need to take it, then you can have a break. You can go, oh, I have to go take this. And take a break. I just notice with myself that if I give myself an out, it makes such a big difference. It's like, okay, I know I'm only going to be here for a certain amount of time, or I know I'm going to like take a break or check, or like what can be my things like, oh, I'm going to go use the bathroom, or oh, I needed to get some fresh air, or because that feeling stuck or feeling trapped is the hardest, or well, one of the hardest things for OCD. It's like that fear of being trapped. And so we're afraid we're going to be trapped. And so we obsess and compulse about how to not get trapped. um, And so, and I think that at least for me, that's a big part of holiday parties is feeling like trapped in a corner talking small talk with someone that, like, and then I don't know how to get out of the situation and I feel rude, but and then I watch other people just be able to kindly say like, "Oh, that's great talking with you. Bye." And and I had a supervisor at one point tell me like, "Erin, you don't have to answer every question someone says, or you don't have to respond directly to every single thing someone says. Like, you can answer a question with a question. You can start talking about something else totally." And it just amazed me how that had never occurred to me and how people do just kind of follow that. If they ask me a question, I can ask them a question back. I can start talking about something else, and they'll most of the time will follow the conversation with me. And it just amazes me still. So I'd love for y'all to try it and report back and let me know if it works for you or not. Um, and but that like so planning it out a little bit, trying to give myself some outs, trying to give myself a way to not feel trapped. And I always think of the fine line between what is compulsion versus what is actual assurance or preparation. And I'll get back to you on that one. I think it's always a process of evaluating or assessing. And the big part of OCD for me is learning how to evaluate or assess without judgment. That judgment is such a big thing for OCD. OCD has such high integrity. And that's a big part of it is, OCD wants to be real and true and genuine. And when it doesn't feel that way, it has a really hard time. But then when the social norms are supposed to do something else, but that doesn't feel genuine to me, OCD feels trapped or stuck. Like, well, how do I do the social norm, but also be true to myself? And it really gets bogged down with that. And so I just try to stay focused on that of it's okay. There's not going to be anything perfect. Many things are going to happen with this and kind of creating my own social norms or be able to get to know my own rhythms for it, be able to understand and appreciate others and to try my best to just communicate that along the way. And I find myself recommending to say the things like say it out loud, say, I'm uncomfortable and I don't know what to say. And that tends to be much more relatable. And like I always think that's going to be so terrible, or I don't know. In my head, it's going to be bad for me to say that in whatever way, but that when I do, it helps the other person understand. Like I have to clue them in to what's going on. That OCD has so much internal stimulation, and like my thoughts are always going just da 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 da, the calculations. And so, and then remembering like I've had 50 conversations with this person in my head and never spoken out loud to them. So I just assume they know these things of these conversations I've had in my head with them, but they don't. And so can I first just practice saying the things? And so for some of this holiday survival guide for OCD, it's kind of that idea of accept and forgive yourself for having OCD. Make a plan to have an out. Come up with a few things to say, or a few things to talk about. And I know that can be a big one with OCD too, and with a lot of different things, but just like at a holiday party, people are going to say, "Oh, how are you?" And OCD really hates being like, "Oh yeah, everything's fine," especially when it's not. But I also don't necessarily want to tell them everything that's going on with me because we're at a like work holiday party or whatever. And so, how do I kind of come up with some things that I am okay talking about, a response that feels genuine, but that's also not just, laying everything out there for them. And so, and that helps me and it gives my brain something to chew on, kind of like gives it a task to do so that like for the da 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 calculation, but then I can also just kind of come back and be in the moment, like, okay, that I can say I'm okay. That's a common one that I say, which is I am okay. At the end of the day, I'm okay. I might be sad, mad, scared, all the things, but also I'm okay. So I can start with that. It doesn't have to be "Oh, I'm good, unless I am feeling good. But that also good isn't a feeling. And it's not really descriptive or precise. It can mean a million different things. And so I use that as a way to challenge myself to be more specific, to not just say something is good or bad, or to not even just say good job to somebody or to myself, but to really be specific, like about what it was that I noticed and how to like acknowledge that and recognize it, but to not just give that like sycophantic or kind of like yes man kind of energy of like, oh my God, you're so great and wonderful and amazing, as ChatGPT does and all the other things. But that like really just play of that, but then you never feel like then you can really trust it because it's like, well, you're just blowing smoke. Like, tell me something real. And it really does resonate deeper. Like if someone says good job, like, yes, I love hearing good job and I want to hear that. But that also It really makes me feel more seen when someone says, like, you did a great job of tying the elements of this together and presenting it in a way that was more digestible, or, um, or even you did a good job trying a new thing. Even though you failed, you tried something new. Good job. So I challenge myself to be more specific about all those things. And then also just to really, like think of the ways, think of my own patterns and rhythms, and think of my core obsessions, with one of mine being I'm not good enough. And so knowing that that's going to pop up instead of thinking I can, get rid of that, and then being surprised when it does pop up. It's like, okay, yes, this is going to pop up. I know like that fear is going to pop up and that my OCD is going to try to ramp up and do one of those OCD attacks. And I'm going to be prepared for it. I know it's going to happen. And when it happens, I'm going to be like, oh, hello, I knew you were coming and I was ready. Um, Instead of feeling that it's coming out of nowhere. But so that kind of shift of energy really helps me to it. Be like, okay, yes, I know it's going to come. I know I'm going to feel not enough at some point, and my job is to not sit there and calculate, yes, you are enough because of this, or well, no, you're really not enough because of that, but just like for me, it's a pause, a breath, put my hand on my heart and go, you are enough. Even if you don't feel enough, you're enough. And then go back to what I was doing. And it's amazing how much that makes a difference. Um, and so I hope that that helps y'all. And I would love any feedback that you have, or some of your adventures or misadventures that happened over the holidays and how you handled it. And anything else you'd like to know more about, let me know. See you next time.